I am feeling like there's a big door that's ready to open. And I'm gonna open it.
I feel like I've been in a dark room stumbling around looking for something and not knowing there was a door. This is something that I'm going to reflect on because I know that I can't continue without that door.
I am determined to deal with things that I have not dealt with well in my past. I feel like this is just going to help all that.
We are more than our thoughts. Our mind is more than our thoughts. When we stand in that space between thoughts, when our mind is in that state, it's saying, I'm open to learning something new. And then I hear something. Something emerges from the nothing. Something emerges from nothing. We witness something come to mind where nothing was there before, except in the body, in feelings, your true self-freedom. We are going to explore the capacity of the mind to stay purely present and aware without a thought as it awaits a revelation. It's as if our mind is taking off its sandals and standing on sacred ground. Our first exercise. Hold up your index finger, please. And we're not ready yet, but this is what we're going to do. You're going to slowly put your index finger on the top of your hand, like this. And put it in a comfortable position so that you can stay in this position for a long time. Now, focus your entire attention on the sensations in at the tip of your index finger. Now, without moving or opening your eyes, shift the focus of your attention so that now you focus on the sensations the back of your hand is feeling. Now, without opening your eyes or moving, focus your entire attention on the intersection between the two sets of sensations, the place where they meet. Describe your experience of the intersection, please. Your awareness of the intersection.
I realized that I need to meditate more. But the sensation of the intersection was the hardest. It seemed easier to draw my attention to either one or the other, but that imagining that space in between, and I was thinking, I can't really feel that. But then I started imagining, the biological thing that's happening of like sweating and things like that. And I thought, well, that's what's going on there. I don't know. It was really hard.
Excellent, because I didn't ask you to think about that space. Excellent. I didn't ask you to imagine what it was like. I didn't ask you to imagine your sensations in the finger or the palm. So you were spot on correct and saying that intersection is hard to discern because I didn't ask you to think about it. I simply asked you to notice it. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And thus you said, I have to practice meditation more. Or you could have said, I have to practice contemplation more. I didn't ask you to do that. All I asked you to do was pay attention to that point between the two. Which means that if you're in the middle of an argument and you want to find that still point, all you have to do while the argument is going on is press your thumb to your palm and focus on the one, then the other, and then between them. No thing is there. No thought is there. And when your mind tries to imagine what's there, you get to say, no, thank you. This is not an exercise for me to imagine something, but simply to be aware of something that is not a thought. Meditation is hard. Contemplative prayer is hard. Index finger on back of palm is not hard. Excellent work, Teresa. Excellent work. You were able to notice that your mind wanted to imagine things. Excellent. And you said, no, thank you. In the form of, I guess I should meditate more. What you were really saying is, no, thank you. Because you knew you were not in the state of pure awareness. But you didn't punish yourself. This is very important.
I found it hard to stay right in between. I kept going to my finger or the back of my hand, and I was going different places and feeling aware of my finger, and I was trying to be aware of both of them. And so I was going back and forth trying to find that in between. It was really hard to just be in the in between instead of one or the other.
Yes, marvelous words. It was really hard just to be in the in between. You knew when you weren't there. That was an awareness. And every time you went there, the mind said, no. Let's go to one place or the other. I don't want to go to that place. I don't want to go to that place. You were aware of the resistance. Bravo. And look at the word that you use, in between. In between sensations. In between thoughts. In between emotions. Which Schleiermacher, and we don't have to go to the slide, gents, called the natal hour of everything living in religion. That's your Isaac Stern experience right there. From the standpoint of the mind. It will move into, the mind will move into a state of bliss or awe. Because as in any in-between experience, no thought is present. It's like the still point in a yo-yo, up and down, up and down. Or an inhalation and exhalation, up and down, in and out, in and out. There's a moment in which it's neither of those two things. That's the in-between moment, which you can get to simply by taking your index finger and focusing, putting it on the back of your hand, focusing on one group of sensations, then on the other group of sensations, and then where they meet. The two sets of sensations never meet. That space between them is empty. And the mind in that state is simply aware, without thought. Now, when I was in that state, counting to 100, I discovered that I was not angry with my brother, but with my parents. That state of awareness, enables you to feel more than you know, to discern more than you know. Because that's the state of revelation. You're simply waiting for the sun to rise.
I enjoyed this exercise. It was almost like an awareness of things that are always happening in my body that I just take for granted or don't even ever pay any attention to, let alone focus on. But I could feel the pulse in my finger, and I felt the bones in my hand, the two bones that run here, and my finger was saying, I want to go deeper in those bones. I want to go down in there. My hand got really big, and my finger got very light. I felt the sensation of my finger like really embracing my hand. And I really felt the shift when you said, okay, now think about the sensation of your hand. I felt movement of energy. It was wild. And it wasn't straight from my finger to my hand. It kind of went up in a loop. But then my hand, the bones were making decisions about not letting the finger in. And the whole, imagining the whole experience, it was just, I did have trouble focusing on that more. But I sensed that my awareness took a step back and a little like wider view to embrace both the finger and the hand. And I tried to not sense that, back and forth, that bad ping pong sensation of finger, hand, finger, hand. No, I had to try to really stop that and just breathe into the entire sensation. But I really enjoyed the embodiment of the exercise.
Marvelous. You described an Isaac Stern experience there.
I did. Yes.
And when you said, then I tried to imagine the whole experience. That's the mind saying, perhaps. I could feel the sensations in my fingertips and I could feel the bones, but I think I'll go into an imagine mode now.
Yep.
I know that will utterly fascinate you. So let's imagine this. The other is really real, those sensations and the bones there, but that in-between place, let's imagine that. If when I counted to 100, as the tears were about to form, I said, let me try to imagine now what I must be feeling. I would have stopped it. Pure awareness is absolutely totally dangerous because you become aware of more than you want to know. You become aware of more than your ego wants you to know in order to successfully navigate the world you live in as you've always navigated it. So the ego will say, can't go there. And then it will say, couldn't go there, could you? Because you're stupid or weak or silly. It just has a ball with you. As distraction narratives to keep you from going to that in-between place of pure awareness. It will say things like, maybe I should read a book on this. When we go to this place and stay aware, we note our resistance. And that's a good thing. If we start punishing ourselves, the ego is taken over. If we simply note the resistance, if we simply note that we now want to imagine things, we're staying in the state of pure awareness and saying, oh, no, thank you. It's like the kid I saw on years ago on a plane. Maybe the kid was 5 or 6, something like this. And the airline stewardess had been instructed to take special care of him because he was truly just a kid. So he sat up front and he was really, really good. Didn't cause any problems whatsoever. At the end of the trip, before we alighted, they marched down the aisle together with this huge bowl of candy. And they said, you were so good. You can have as much of this as you want. And he said, oh, no, thank you. I don't eat junk food. I thought, right on, parents. Oh, no, thank you. I don't eat junk food. So in this state, when your mind says, okay, let's imagine this, or you're not doing this, all you have to do is say, oh, no, thank you. I don't junk this up. Because in that state, your brother will no longer provoke outrage. You'll discover the source of your rage, of your panic, of your anguish, of your sorrow, of your loss, that your body has been trying to tell you for years. Where are you now? Thoughts, feelings? What are you thinking about?
The discovery of what, some of what, not all of what, but some of what my body has been telling me for years. And of course, I jokingly told my friend Jackie, I said, yeah, by the middle of summer, I'm going to be all fixed. After this experience with you and going to therapy, I'm going to be all fixed. In my therapy, I have taken the very focused, my goal is to deal with my childhood trauma. And I went through this sort of meditative exercise with my therapist. And I realized that one of the emotions that I had as a child was being terrified and terrorized. Those two things being different for me. Terrified is the emotion you're having in the moment. Terrorized is knowing that certain behaviors will lead to being terrified. So, or certain events will lead to being terrified. And I realized that as much as I tried to not imitate my parents' parenting on my own children that I did to a certain extent. And I realized that I terrified them and probably terrorized them as well. And what it took was being in that uncomfortable space of like really recognizing what happened to me. And then I was sort of, I don't know, softened, or, it sort of cracked something open in me that allowed me to revisit my own parenting. And so for me, it was very, um, I don't know. I don't have words yet for it, but because I feel like even when you were describing being in that in between space and saying no thank you, I remember feeling that I could just shut this down. When I first started exploring this and going through this exercise with my therapist, I thought I could just shut this down so easily because that's what I do. That's what I've done for a very long time. And it took a little bit of, well, maybe a lot, I don't know how much, but it took some effort on my part to not, downshift into my habit of shutting it down. And so that was very revelatory for me. And in hearing your story, Tandeka, about your brother and about stopping yourself and being in that space and then having that revelation, that was exactly what it felt like to me, even though I wasn't counting to 100 or anything like that. But I did feel that thing of like I just had to pause and be in that very uncomfortable space for a while, and journal about it and talk to my husband about it before I realized that part of that process was letting me then kind of revisit my own shame of the way that I behaved.
Totally fabulous. And the words you use, space, cracked open, the in-between place of pure awareness, which is the Isaac Stern experience from the standpoint of the mind. Congratulations, wonderful work. And it's courageous work.
I guess I'm curious to know, um, like during my week, every time that I paused and I was frustrated and angry, um, and all those feelings, that there's really something more, that it's not just that immediate thing, that if I dig, that I'll get to the source of it. And if I could get to the source of it, then I could change something.
You, yes, that it's trying to, your true self wants to tell you something. And the true self is never punitive. It's never judgmental. It is pure love, pure embrace, pure compassion. If there's something that you wanted to do and you didn't do it, it doesn't say, well, look at this, you never do it. It says, you tried so hard. I'm so proud of you. It never uses the word should. Everything is done from the standpoint of love. Period. The only thing our true self is trying to do is to embrace all of us, all our whole self, because it is our whole self. It's not even an it, it's just a state. And I have found that for me, the most dangerous part of this process is that I have to say, oh my gosh, I'm lovable. And I'm loved. The true self is not something. It's not a sensation. It's not a thought. It's a movement between two thoughts, between two sensations. And the closest image for that and concept for that is zero. It's not inhalation or exhalation. Yo-yo. It's not up or down. It's the still point. Nada, zero, no thing. Except from the standpoint of the body, it's the infinite universe in a finite moment of one's own life, which is a movement. And from the standpoint of the mind, it's the pure awareness with no thought. It's witnessing, which puts the mind in a state of awe. The true self is not something. From the standpoint of the body, it's infinitely full, and from the standpoint of the mind, it's absolutely empty. And the coincidence of the two, infinity and emptiness, is the classic Western definition of mysticism. But for us in this course, it's the two sides of the same description of the Isaac Stern experience. I invite each of you to summarize what I just said.
Pure awareness with no thought that puts you in a state of awe. And I like states of awe. I like that stuff. So that's all I got. Good, Maggie. Kat,
Oh,
go ahead.
okay,
Go
wait
ahead.
a minute, hold on a second. Can you translate what you've just said into our experience of the index finger and the back of the hand and the intersection? Can you translate what you've just said into the experience of the intersection?
I think for me it was a pulling away of understanding, like trying to get to the space where you just are trying to focus on what the experience is. So, it felt like laser, I'm trying to laser focus, right? So actually inducing myself into a state of pure awareness, I think. And I don't know if this experience gives me a state of awe, but certainly understanding now that I can do this and it will help those things of jumping to conclusions or jumping to judgment, or where I'm already thinking about what I'm going to say when the other person is still talking. That helped. I mean, that is a thing I'm going to start doing. So I don't know. Does that?
Yes, because that's the description of emptiness from the standpoint of the mind, pure awareness.
Yes.
It's in between thoughts, in between sensations, in between emotional states. So that's the sentence you wrote down refers to that intersection.
As you were talking, I had an image in mind, and you were talking about something that made me think of flow, like your life flowing. So I was thinking of like a creek, actually a little creek I used to go to when I was a kid, and seeing the water flowing, and then seeing the stones that we used to jump across the creek on, and being on one stone and then trying to jump to the other one, and that moment of in between when you're not on this stone or that stone. And so kind of that as symbolic of not being here or there, but that in between where we don't focus about that. We're focused on being on this stone or that stone, but what's going on in the in between when we're in the air, when we're not on the earth. So that's just the imagery that I had to help me try to understand what you were saying.
Perfect. And that's not a metaphor, because that in-between place is the flow of the universe. It's a movement. It's not a narrative. It's the empty space that allows for the movement of the universe. It's an act of creation. It is not a metaphor. I didn't say to you, okay, first focus on the index finger sensations, then on the sensations in the palm of your hand, and then on the metaphor. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Because that in-between place is the flow of the universe, which is Schleiermacher's first definition of the natal of religion as the natal hour of everything living in religion. It's movement. And there it is between those two sets of sensations.
I'm not sure how I can repeat back to you what you said, but I can tell you how it fell on me. My awareness of what you're saying, my connection to it was an experience that I used as my Isaac Stern experience. That moment when Robert was dying and I was looking at him after he had been laying there with sunken eyes and gray for 2 days. There were other people in the room, but I was aware of him and his look at me. I can still see it. I can go back there instantly. That was a place of pure awareness of his soul. I know that. That's what that was. It's an unspeakable thing. It's unspeakable. It's pure awe, like you say. I've been there. Going there is a treat. Such an instant, but such a delicious taste of knowing. You know, I for years I've known it was possible, but to actually experience that otherworldly, that liminal place. He saw my true self. And when I saw him looking at me and him knew what he was seeing, I became it. So yeah.
That liminal space is extraordinary. And it's right here. So all the exercises that we're doing is to say you have access to that space anywhere, anytime, everywhere. And we don't compare the experiences, because some, thank you, are simply quite extraordinary. And you don't compare infinities. It's just that they're an infinite number of them. Your homework assignment is as follows. The instructions are simple, and it's an extraordinarily difficult assignment. I saw that frown. You don't have to all say thank you, Tandega, together. Okay. You're simply going to move your mind from one thought, negative one, to the other thought, positive one. And you're going to focus on the movement in between the two thoughts.